groups enable you to define fine-grained network security policies based on workloads and centralized on applications instead of explicit IP addresses, as we're accustomed to with network security group configuration. So in that scenario where I have an Azure virtual network and I've defined a subnet and applied a network security group with a rule set including inbound and outbound rules, rather than specifying IP ranges in the source and destination, I can instead specify an application security group. So the app security group is essentially a container that points to the virtual machines of like requirement. So in this case, my PKI or public key infrastructure servers. And now, instead of specifying an IP range, I can specify an application security group in the source and destination. The real benefit here is I'm targeting the servers I need quite specifically, and as I bring new servers online, I can add them to the app security group and their port requirements will be met automatically at deployment time. So I'm going to hit the Add button here under App Security Groups in the Azure portal to show you how we create that App Security Group container. And it really is quite simple because it's simply that, a container. So I will specify a resource group name and I will simply create a test app security group here to show you how simple it is. And that's all there is to that process. I now have an empty app security group. And you'll notice here I have an existing app security group already in use. So let's see how we associate that app security group to our virtual machine. So I'll look at one of my PKI servers here, and I will look at its networking settings. And under Application Security Groups, I see I have the Configure Application Security Group option, where I can then pick the app security group or groups I would like to associate here. And now, let's look at the network security group and see how we specify that app security group in our rule sets. So I'm going to look at the network security group for my policy CAs, part of my PKI infrastructure, and I'll select the remote desktop role, which currently targets any and any for source and destination, so effectively applying to the entire subnet. So what I can do is, instead of specifying any or an IP range, I can specify application security group, and then I can pick the appropriate app security group, and now that rule has a more precise target with specific servers. We call that network micro segmentation. So I can make sure that in my rule sets, rather than specifying entire subnets, I'm only targeting the workloads that need those ports open. A couple of things to bear in mind when you're creating these app security groups. All the network interfaces must be within the same virtual network, and the app security groups used in the source and destination must also be within the same VNet. So in summary, the ASGs facilitate micro-segmentation, fine-grained traffic filtering based on application patterns, allowing us to bring those role-specific servers on, associate to the app security groups that are necessary, and allowing the ports on a more precise basis.